Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:31, Thursday, August 28th. Welcome to this meeting of the Emeryville Planning Commission. Can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Chafe,
Here.
Commissioner Gould, Commissioner Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Rivera,
Here.
Commissioner Small,
Here.
Vice Chair Henry,
Here.
and Chair Wax.
Here.
We're all present. You have a quorum.
All right, moving on to the election of chair and vice chair. It is that time again. Does anybody have any nominations or self-nominations for either of these positions?
Sure. I'll nominate Chair Wax to continue as chair.
May I make an amendment to the motion to add a Vice Chair Henry to continue as Vice Chair? Same motion.
I would be happy to serve as vice chair just to try it out if people are open to it. You can, if Vice Chair Emney wants, you can be chair. I'm open. No.
I'm willing to go along with whatever. Don't look at me. I'm a team player.
Very strong opinions here. Or I could be chair. I don't mind either. I'll have some more free time soon, so I don't mind.
Do we have a motion from anybody? Do we have a motion?
Oh,
There's a motion on the table. You can offer a substitute motion, get a second on it for, whatever scenario
yeah.
you'd like to discuss. And then we would take up the first motion and then, sorry. And then if there was a substitute motion, then we take up the substitute first, correct? And then we would go back to the first. So if you offer a substitute motion, then we can consider it.
Okay. Does Chair Wax or Vice Chair Hemney have any preferences which would like to continue serving as one or the other?
Oh, happy to continue as vice chair. That's fine. And as I already moved, that Chair Wax be continue.
I'd like to submit a substitute motion with myself as chair and Vice Chair Amney to continue as vice chair.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
So that being the substitute motion, which if I understood it correctly, is for Commissioner Wax to continue as chair and Commissioner Gould to be vice chair, moved by Commissioner Gould and seconded by Commissioner Small.
No.
Did I get that wrong? I'm sorry.
It was, yeah. And
I'm sorry.
Chair Wax to be, or no,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Amney to be vice chair.
So,
Yeah.
so hand me to continue as vice chair and Commissioner Gould to be chair and seconded by Commissioner Small. Okay, so I will call a roll on that motion. Commissioner Chafe,
Nay?
Commissioner Gould,
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez,
I would just like to say I'd be happy with anyone serving as chair and vice chair. I think we're all very competent, but I would love to see some continuity, and I appreciate the role Chair Wax has played. So at this time, nay,
Okay.
but I completely support you in the future, Sam.
Commissioner Rivera.
I'd like to say the same thing. If Commissioner Wax would like to continue, I'd like to see that as well. So I'm going to say nay.
Commissioner Small.
I'm going to say nay for exactly the same reasons, even though I would like to encourage the leadership to grow.
Okay, and then finally, Vice Chair Henry
Nay.
and Chair Wax.
Abstain.
And so that motion fails. We back to the original motion, which I believe you, Commissioner Martinez was the second, but you had offered an amendment to that motion, which was
To add Chair,
Henme, Vice Chair
Henme.
Henme and
Yeah.
Chair, and Wax for Chair.
Correct. Yes.
As long as the amendment was friendly, then we're okay.
It
and
was
the
a friendly
original ma-
amendment. Was it accepted by the motion maker?
Gotcha. Okay. So on the motion for Commissioner Wax to be chair, continue as chair, and Vice Chair Henry to continue as vice chair, I will call the roll on that motion. Commissioner Chafe,
Aye.
Commissioner Gould,
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera,
Aye.
Commissioner Small,
Aye.
Vice Chair Henry,
Aye.
and Chair Wax.
Aye.
That one passes unanimously. Thank you. That was more complicated than I had anticipated.
Thank you, everyone, for the.
So you don't need to move. You can sit in your chairs as you are.
I really thought I would be out of the hot seat, but here we are. All right, well, that having been accomplished, let's move on to 4. Public comment. This is the time for a public comment for any items that are not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to come forward and speak, now is the time. You will have 3 minutes. Seeing no one approaching, I am going to close that and move on to approval of action minutes for May 22nd, 2025.
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
On the motion by Commissioner Martinez to approve the May 22nd, 2025 minutes, seconded by Vice Chair Henry, I will call the roll. Commissioner Chafe,
Aye.
Commissioner Gould, Commissioner Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera,
Aye.
Commissioner Small,
Aye.
Vice Chair Henry,
Aye.
and Chair Wax.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Moving on to the Community Development Director's report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to run through this briefly. It's been a while since we've met, so there's been more council action since we met than normal to report on. So I'm going to buzz right through these. On June 3rd, the council approved sidewalk cafe permits for 3 new Bay Wheels bike share stations. Those are at Hoochin Park, Powell at Commodore, and Vallejo Street at 66th Street. The council also adopted the fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 budget. On June 17th, there was a special meeting where appointments were made to committees, including this Planning Commission, and congratulations to all those that were reappointed at that meeting. The regular meeting included an acceptance of a $250,000 grant from MTC's Transit-Oriented Communities Program. That's going to be used by the Community Development Department to evaluate reinstituting inclusionary housing requirements, which have been absent in our code for many years, and now can be reinstated because of court decisions that happened relatively recently, as well as changes to our tenant protections ordinance, which have been under discussion at the Budget and Governance, City Council, and the Housing Committee levels. And so there's more to come back to the commission on these topics as we develop these projects further. The council approved the artists for the 8th phase of the bus shelter art program, approved the installation of a sculpture for the Rotten City Cultural District in place of the existing non-functional windmill at the corner of Powell and Hollis in front of Honor Bar. The council authorized the contract for building services for the next 2 fiscal years and approved the first reading of the ordinance for that major amendment of the public market development agreement as recommended by this commission at its May meeting. Lastly, the first annual report on the active transportation plan implementation was received by the City Council. You also received that at your May meeting. On July 1st, the City Council authorized execution of a contract for an environmental impact report for the Sutter project with Urban Planning Partners. So that work is beginning. The council also authorized a revised letter of commitment for a grant application by the San Francisco Estuary Institute for Sea Level Rise Planning Funds. The 2025 Housing Affordability Table was adopted, and a contract with Weiss Associates for remedial design investigation of the property at 1245 Powell, formerly Boyd's Auto Body. was also approved at that meeting, as well as the second reading of the ordinance for the previously mentioned public market development agreement. And then lastly, on July 15th, the City Council authorized a contract with Economic and Planning Systems for preparation of an inclusionary housing study I mentioned earlier, bringing that back, as well as overhauling our development impact fees. It's time to redo the nexus studies for those. And so because of the nexus between affordable housing inclusionary requirements and the fee that we exact, the linkage fee, it would be good to do those at the same time with the same firm. And so that's what we're doing. And so you'll be hearing more about that as these studies are completed. That completes my report. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners? All right, seeing no questions or comments, going to close this item and move on to 7, disclosure of ex parte communications and identification of conflicts of interest. Anything, commissioners? Seeing nothing, we are now moving on to public hearings, starting with 8.1, Bay Center Life Science Project.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I'm Miri Desai, Planning Manager, and also the project manager for this Bay Center Life Science Project. This is a permit extension. This was approved by the Commission in '23, and now 2 years have passed, and so they need to come in, and this would be their last renewal. After this, they need to apply for a building permit within the next year in order to keep these permits alive. Some of you were not present during the entitlement of this project, so I'll quickly go through some basic concepts. This is in the north part of the city along Lacoste, 65th, Christie, and 64th Street. There are existing 3 buildings which have a variety of office and R&D uses. The project is for a new 6-story R&D building and also a new parking garage. And the project will also involve removal of a parking lane from 65th and 64th Street in order to accommodate new compliant sidewalks. So in terms of the permits that need to be extended, one is the use permit for the use itself for a bonus height of 96 feet, as well as the fact that the site is between 1 and 5 acres, which require the applicant to do a mix of uses, and in this case, it's R&D and community assembly use. In addition, the 2 new buildings also have a design review approval that needs to be extended, as well as a tree removal permit to remove 1 street along 65th Street. So this is sort of the site and the circulation plan. Christie Avenue is on top of your screen, and Lacoste is at the bottom. You can it's pretty self-explanatory. This is the landscape plan. I'd like to add that in addition to the surface parking lot that would be removed, there's going to be additional trees, including 32 new street trees. This is the elevation of the R&D building. And this is the rendering of the R&D building as well as the garage. There was a lot of discussion on the design of the garage, and this is what it will look at night. So the project does need bonus points, 92, and half of them come from provision of affordable housing, and the other half come from community benefits. As this is not a housing development, they just pay additional fee towards affordable housing impact fee. So after the calculations, if this project were to be built today, they would need to basically pay around $2 million. Obviously, the actual fee will be at the time when the building permit is issued, and so it's very likely it's going to be higher than that. In terms of community benefits, there's going to be additional open space, and I'll show you where that will occur. And they are going to contribute towards Lacoste Park, and they're going to contribute towards the city's small business fund. And so the monetized value of those two is coming to $4.4 million. And in terms of the additional open space that they're providing is the dog run along 64th Street, and a public plaza between the two new buildings. And this is sort of a rough sketch of what the linear park would be, and they would be, this would need to be designed and developed by Public Works, but they will be contributing monetary funds to this park. So in terms of permit extension, these are the findings that the commission needs to make. We believe that these findings can be made, and the reason for the delay is the economic realities that we are facing in the Bay Area and the country as a whole, not just interest rates as well as construction financing. This is pretty well documented, and it's on everybody's mind, so it just makes sense that they would not be able to build in the 2 years. So with that, we are recommending approval of 1-year extension of this permit, and the new expiry date would be August 23rd of next year. The applicant is here if you have any questions from him. Otherwise, I'm also available for questions.
Commissioners, any questions? No questions? All right then, it is 6:47. I am opening public comment at this time. If anyone wishes to come forward and speak on this subject, you will have 3 minutes. I am not seeing any speakers, so closing the public comment at 6:47. All right, commissioners, do you have any comments on this?
I think it's fine to extend it for a year. I think the reasons are valid. It's a very difficult time for bioscience, biotech. So to extend it for a year, hopefully will allow the project to become feasible.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I completely agree. I see no reason to deny this extension. I'll move approval of the 1-year extension.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you. On the motion by Commissioner Gould to approve the extension request, seconded by Commissioner Small, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Chafe?
Aye.
Commissioner Gould? Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera?
Aye.
Commissioner Small?
Aye.
Vice Chair Henme?
Aye.
And Chair Wax?
Aye.
Motion's unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Closing that item, moving on to item 8.2, Tokyo Central signs.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be presenting today on the proposed signage for Tokyo Central at 5603 Bay Street. So this is, of course, the site location for the new grocery store in Bay Street Shopping Center. And a little closer look. So the entrance for the grocery store is going to be on the southeast side, and vehicle access will be along Bay Street via Shellman Street, and most of the pedestrian and bicycle access will be along the bike paths and pedestrian paseo along Ohlone Way. And I'll also just note that the Shellman Memorial is on the north side of the grocery store as well. So the grocery store was approved under FDP 21-2. Again, there's service parking and rooftop parking provided on site, which will be accessed from the south along Bay Street. And then there is the paseo on the east side of the site, as well as a second floor dining area in Bay Street that overlooks the grocery store. So the proposed signs comply with the sign regulations. They don't exceed a ratio of 1 square foot sign area per 1 linear foot of building frontage, but a major sign permit is required because the wall and projecting signs exceed the maximum area allowed per sign. A parking awning sign that is proposed is greater than 10 square feet, and some of the signs are mounted more than 25 feet above ground. So those are all individual triggers for the major sign permit. And because this is new construction on the site compared to what was initially included as individual tenants in the master sign program for Bay Street, this project does not fall under those regulations. So the proposed signage would include 3 wall signs of varying sizes and 3 blade signs as shown on this slide. There would also be 1 awning sign located above the parking garage entry. So the site locations are here. There's going to be, the blade signs will be located along Shellman Street, along the Paseo, and along Bay Street to the south. And the wall signs similarly will be focused along Bay Street, the Paseo, and Shellmound. So the west wall sign, which is facing Shellmound, will be 164 square feet in total. It'll be mounted 26 feet, measuring from ground level to the top of the sign. And here's a photo on site and a rendering, so you can see the scale of that. The wall sign on the south side of the property, this would be above the entrance to the grocery store. It will be 164 square feet as well, and mounted 33 feet above ground. And here's similarly an image of what that will look like. There will be a slightly smaller wall sign on the east side of the property of the site, facing the Paseo, also above the main entry to the grocery store. So this one will be 87 square feet and mounted approximately 32 feet above ground. And that is the location there. So again, there will be 3 blade signs, 1 facing along Shellmound to the west, 1 facing the Paseo to the east, and then 1 on the south side along Bay Street. Each of these signs is the same size, so they're about 2 feet 8 inches wide and 10 feet tall, 27 square feet each, and they'll all be mounted 29 feet above ground level. So you can see the one on Shellman Street will be visible for vehicles driving in either direction along Shellman Street. The one on the south-facing side will be visible as vehicles and pedestrians are turning off of Shellmound onto Bay and vice versa, coming from the Paseo. And then the east one will be visible from the main Bay Street corridor, as well as for pedestrians walking along Ohlone in the Paseo. And then the final sign proposed is the awning sign on the south side of the property, just above the entrance to the parking garage. This will be 30 square feet. It will be mounted on the existing awning that's been constructed on site, which is about 19.5 feet above ground. And you can see here the visual. So the findings for the signage are as follows. The proposed signs are necessary. The proposed signs are no larger than necessary. The proposed signs comply with planning regulations and design principles, and the proposed signs keep with the visual character of the area. And I believe I forgot to note, all of the signs will be illuminated, and as is required by our standard conditions of approval, all of those signs will be installed with dimmer switches. If that becomes a concern in the future, the community development director can direct the property owner or tenant to dim those signs appropriately. The proposed signs are readable, and the proposed signs relate well to buildings and architectural features. In addition, Planning Commission must make general design review findings as well, which are as follows. The design of the project is consistent with the general plan, including urban design goals and policies. The design conforms with the Emeryville design guidelines. The signage is of high design quality, compatible with and not adversely affecting the surrounding area. And so staff believes that all of these findings can be made for the proposed signage, and that Planning Commission should approve this major sign application. I am available to answer questions, as is the applicant.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
One major question is, in the sign package, there was included other signs of film being applied to a whole series of windows. Is that not part of this approval?
So that is not included in the approval. So those are not advertising signage. We would consider signage to be things that has printable copy or advertising language in it. What they're showing there is just basically a screening mechanism for those windows. So that's something we would typically review at a minor level.
I see. Okay. Second thing is, are the blade signs two-sided?
Yes, the blade signs are two-sided.
So they're counted as double the area?
They're not counted as double the area. I believe it is 2 feet, I want to believe is the width. If a blade sign or a double-sided sign is wider than that, then we would consider those to be 2 separate areas. In this case, that's not the case. So we consider just one face.
I see. Yeah. Okay. And the last question I had, and this is more probably to the applicant, is why are the signs at the entry so high? I can understand it being on the west side because that's where vehicular traffic is, and one driving by, it'd be higher the better. But at the entry side, there's no vehicular traffic. It's all about pedestrian traffic. And it seems to me it's more visible for people if it's closer to the people than way at the top of the building.
Hi. We believe the design is appropriate in relationship to the scale of the building and also the visibility for, say, diners up at the terrace level and overall view from pedestrian traffic and everything. So we think the scale is appropriate to the building. Something smaller would just be.
Oh, my question is not about size.
Oh, the height.
Height. It's way at the top of the building instead of being closer to the awning treatment of the entry. It's like 2 or 3 feet from the top of the building, I think.
We still believe that's a good visual placement. Having it lower would be kind of pressing down on people and a weird visual impact. This has.
Can you please speak into the
Oh,
mic,
I'm
sir?
sorry. Yeah, the visual impact we believe is a good design and a good location and accessible to everybody in the area, driving, walking, cycling.
I'm happy to also just pull up the plans really quick if you want to take a look.
Please do.
I will say this did come up in staff review of the project, and one thing that we were considering is there is, as part of the initial building design, an awning directly above the entrance to the grocery store, and potentially from an angle, the signage would not be visible at a lower location. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, just leave it there. Okay.
I have a related question, which is I'm trying to visualize what this would look like if you're coming in from what we call the Red Bridge, the South Bayfront Bridge, as a pedestrian or bicyclist and facing towards this building. Would you be able to see this sign from that far north, or would it be obscured? Do you know?
I don't believe any of the signage would be visible. So if we refer to this map, so potentially this one blade sign, which is facing with north-south along the Paseo, maybe would be visible at an angle, but for the most part, that's not the case.
So basically, I'm just trying to see who could see this sign if it's up that high. Basically, it's the diners or people walking on the second floor of the building directly to the east.
Right.
Is that right?
Oh, sorry. That's my bad. Ah. Yes, and I would also say pedestrians walking along the Paseo would also be able to see the signage that's the east-facing signage.
Especially at night if it's illuminated. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I have a question about the the blade sign in the northwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually coming from a similar perspective. I think any of you who are frequenting that bridge before this building came up remember there was a moment when you just lost a significant part of the view from the top of the bridge, which was, you know, an unfortunate reality of putting buildings where you can see them. But in this case, it's actually cutting off a really, really beautiful view shed. And if we're going to be adding signs here, I think that this northwest corner sign, there is no reason that it should be contributing to that obfuscation because it should be able to set back. I'm curious if this has been looked into at all. Like, I don't think if you're standing at the top of the South Bayfront Bridge, you should be able to see this northwest blade sign physically at all because it's not sticking out into what is an already curtailed view.
You're referring to the blade sign along Shellman Street?
Yes.
I don't know that it would be visible from South Bayfront Bridge. I have not been. That's not something I checked for when I went on a site visit, so I couldn't confirm. I mean, it's at the top of the building, but the building is also obscured, I believe, by like both the angle of the bridge itself and the existing structures. But again, I can't confirm.
Sorry, Chair Wax, I didn't follow. Which view are you concerned about?
All right.
From where to where?
So if you're at the top of the South Bayfront Bridge, this is a big public view shed. You're about to enter the mall,
Right.
This is one of the prettier views for the public in the city.
Leave it there, please. Yeah.
In the time that the bridge was up and this building was down, there was this, you know, incredible panoramic view when you got there, which now the grocery store cuts off a little bit. It's not dramatic. You still have a nice view. But what I'm concerned is you are already having your view cut off by that northwest corner. If we stick that out further, even though it's, you know, at a different angle, if it's not offset at all, it's going to expand that even a little bit, I think. And that's what I'm curious about.
Others respond first.
I, again, cannot confirm. That's not something that I looked for in the site visit. Yes, it's possible that if the sign was to be set back further south, then perhaps it would not cut off an additional part of the view.
Can you
Yeah,
go
I'm
to the
not clear.
floor plan, show exactly where that sign is? That's
Yeah.
a pretty inaccurate drawing. It's not 2 feet in that drawing, so.
Right. So give me 1 second. Seawall signs.
Yeah, it's off the corner, the upper left drawing there. I don't think I'm positive you can't see it from the bridge.
Yeah, if that's the offset
Yeah.
that we're seeing in the top left here, then yes.
Yeah, the site plan is just informational. It's not technical. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, commissioners? All right. It is 7:05, opening the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on this? Please approach the podium. Seeing none, closing public comment again at 7:05, and moving on to comments. Commissioners.
I'd like to make a comment on the film being applied, and that is, I know that it's not part of this approval, but I'd still like to make a suggestion to the applicant, which is to say that I find the film, all the film that's being applied to about half or 2/3 of the height of the windows in order to make them opaque, I find somewhat unfortunate because transparency does allow a view of activity, et cetera, et cetera. But with the film, I'd like to suggest that a decorative pattern be included with the film because it's very minor cost add. And I think to add some kind of, particularly a Japanese theme, design pattern, grasses, whatever, would make that film much more attractive and make the whole street front much more attractive. So I think that film is actually a pretty important part of your signage, and I think rather than it being a blank film, you can make it much better. So I'd suggest that happen. It can still be translucent. You can just use different levels of translucency, and you know, like I say, it's a very minor cost to add patterns to those sorts of films. Good, thank you. And the height issue, I mean, the one thing that was pointed out, or I noticed, the stair is blocking the view unless the sign goes up above the stair. So that's the one thing why it makes some sense to put it up that high. Otherwise, personally, I would, so I think that kind of justifies its height.
Any other comments, commissioners?
I just wanted to comment and say that I think the signs are nicely designed and proportionate, and I'm completely comfortable with where they're located. I think they're both to the scale of the pedestrian, and I would prefer also to not see the film. That's clearly not part of this. I'm surprised there aren't active use requirements or transparency requirements. I know that's really difficult with a lot of grocery stores, and drugstores also have the same thing, just in terms of their marketing and how they like to be designed. But I'm supportive of this application.
Does anyone want to move the item?
Yeah, I'll move the item. I just want to say I'm completely supportive of the signs. I think they are in line with the pedestrian environment. I think they're appropriately sized and located for the building and the use. In kind of honor of where it's coming from, I'd like to see more signage and lights and just kind of the context of Tokyo market, and being from, you know, that if it was in Tokyo, there'd be a lot more lights and signs, and and to honor that, I would like to see a ton of more lights and signs on the building. But I understand that this is not the right context and character of the area. But you know, I don't have a problem with the film. I understand that it'd be nice to see the active use, but I feel like it'll be a very great addition, and I think the community is looking forward to it.
I'll second the item.
Thank you. On the motion by Commissioner Rivera to approve the sign permit, seconded by Commissioner Chafe, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Chafe.
Aye.
Commissioner Gould.
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Commissioner Small.
Aye.
Vice Chair Henry.
Aye.
And Chair Wax.
Aye.
It unanimously passes. Thank you.
Congratulations. Closing 8.2 and moving on to 8.3, Local Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Pedro Jimenez, Assistant City Manager, here to present the city's 2025-2030 Local Hazard Mitigation Plan update to seek your recommendation by resolution for the City Council to adopt the updated Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. I believe last time we presented to the Commission was back in September 2024 to review and provide input. I think there's some new members since then, so I'll go over and give some background really quick through some of these slides, and then be happy to answer some questions. All right, so the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan is a city framework for long-term strategies to mitigate disaster losses. Mitigation is most effective when it's based on a comprehensive long-term plan that is developed before a disaster occurs. And so why do we need to have a plan? Well, it's mandated. All jurisdictions, special districts in the country are required under Federal Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 to have an approved local hazard mitigation plan to receive any mitigation funding, either pre or post disaster. Also, a plan must be updated every 5 years, and that's what's bringing us here tonight. And so FEMA has approved the city local hazard mitigation plan update pending formal approval by the city council. There were some new requirements that were put in place in April of 2023. The need to add in climate change, involve and engage the at-risk underserved community, and also to list any state and federal disasters, even if it didn't impact Emeryville. So any that were done in Alameda County. Here you'll see the slide breaks down the planning process into 4 steps and 9 tasks. We'll be covering some of these in the next slides. So there are 7 elements that are required by FEMA for local hazard mitigation plan, but A through F apply to Emeryville. Element G applies only to those jurisdictions and special districts that have and maintain a high hazard dam, so not applicable to Emeryville. The planning process. For FEMA, the planning process is important as the plan itself. So to get the greatest benefit from the hazard mitigation, everyone must have a seat at the table. So for these elements, you need to describe the document and how you include the public, outside stakeholders, organizations that serve underserved populations and neighboring communities in your planning process. You also need to include how you incorporated existing plans, studies, and reports into your plan and how the community will be able to stay involved over the life of the plan. Here, as mentioned earlier, under the DMA 2000, a jurisdiction only needed to address fire, floods, and earthquakes in their local hazard mitigation plan, but over the years, certain technical and human-caused hazards had also found their way into the city's local hazard mitigation planning. The plan team's rationale for including a hazard was as followed: hazards could require the city or the required city in the past to declare a state of emergency or need to request mitigation funding either pre or post disaster, then the hazard would be included in our plan. Once identified in the hazards we wanted to include, we needed a description of the city's vulnerabilities for these hazards. The plan include information on the city's current infrastructure, its land uses and development trends, and if its identified hazard would have any impact on those. So the mitigation strategy is a long-term blueprint for reducing potential losses identified in risk assessment. Mitigation strategies, in essence, describe how the city will accomplish the overall purpose of the planning process, what are actions we take that can minimize or mitigate the scale and severity of the adverse impacts of hazards that we identified, consequences of those hazards. We identified 40 potential mitigation actions to be included in our plan. So maintenance, the local hazard mitigation is a living document. FEMA does not want it to be a plan that just sits on a shelf and collects dust. So as the conditions change, new details become available or action progress over time. The plan will need to be changed to stay up to date. So how do we do that? Is this update we included an annual community survey as well as having certain members of the team meet on an annual basis to document any changes and any progress made on mitigation actions. This will make the process easier for the next element. That's our goal there. The plan update, as stated earlier in the presentation, local hazard mitigation plan needs to be formally updated every 5 years and include changes in the hazards listed or their priorities. The plan should include documentation of hazard events and occurred in the jurisdiction during the 5 years and where the consequences or impacts of those events. The plan should also document any changes that have occurred in the city, such as new development, any changes in land use trends, any movements made, any mitigation ideas listed, and if not, why. So the plan adoption. Once you complete the plan update, you arrive at the final element F, the plan adoption. As mentioned earlier, in September 2024, staff presented the local hazard mitigation plan both to the commission and the city council for their review and input, and we submitted to Cal OES for their review and approval in November. And on December 16th, Cal OES returned the plan with a few required revisions and recommended revisions for the next update. Staff completed the revised revisions as well as recommended future revisions and returned the plan to Cal OES on February 3rd, 2025. Cal OES approved the plan with required revisions, forwarded the plan to FEMA for their approval on February 2025. On April 14th, FEMA approved the plan pending formal adoption by City Council, which brings us here today. The plan adoption, the California Disaster Assistance Act limits the state share for any mitigation projects to no more than 75% of the total state eligible costs. However, under the AB 2140, the state share can increase up to 100% of total costs, but only if local agencies have adopted a local hazard mitigation plan as part of their safety element of the general plan, which the city did with the last update in 2019. When adopting the last update, the general plan action in table 8.5 for conservation, safety, and noise was amended to reflect the update needed. That updated version of the local hazard mitigation would be reviewed by the Planning Commission and adopted by City Council, but it would not require a subsequent amendment to the general plan. Sorry about that. All right. So this proposal gets us into the recommendation where staff recommends Planning Commission approve the attached resolution recommending City Council adopt the 2025-2030 Local Hazard Mitigation Plan to replace existing Local Hazard Mitigation Plan index to the safety element of the general plan in accordance with Assembly Bill 2140 as shown in Exhibit A, and to find the action exempt from requirements of CEQA per state CEQA guidelines, Section 15308 and 15061B3. That concludes my presentation. If you have questions, happy to answer them. I do want to recognize Lori Elephant, who couldn't be here tonight to present, but she did the heavy lift in this along with other of the committee on the team to get this completed to where we are today. So I want to recognize Lori and all the people on the committee.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Thank you so much. I have one very specific question about an item that's in the plan, and I don't know if you know the answer, but there's a jet fuel pipeline that runs under the train tracks. And I saw in there that the age of the pipeline is around 65 to 75 years. And it states that in the last major earthquake, the pipeline performed well, given the materials of it, but I was just wondering if there's been any discussion with Kinder Morgan about replacing it or the lifetime of the pipeline.
Yeah, I don't recall that conversation. It would be something I'd have to look into and get back to you on a response for that. But yeah, I can look into that and follow up.
Two lines, right? What was the other?
The other one is PG&E methane gas.
Yeah. I did notice there was a line in the report about locating that, and the city decided that it wasn't relevant or something. I forget the exact, and it seemed odd to me.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking about that one is because it said that PG&E has proactively taken steps to improve the safety of the methane gas one, but there wasn't other than saying that it performed well in the last earthquake, it didn't really seem to me like there was an indication of like what the expected lifetime was and whether there would be a replacement needed at some point. And I was just curious if the city is engaged in those conversations, or if that's something that Kinder Morgan would be expected to bring to the city eventually.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that and get a response back to the commission.
Under the mitigation, one of the lines was about staff training. And it seems to me that that would be one of the most effective use of money of almost anything, was if everybody, police, fire, city staff, everybody was very well prepared for any of these disasters. Can you tell me about what kind of staff training is happening now or is planned in the future?
We yearly have several trainings with our Emergency Operations Center. And so we have different sections that discuss different scenarios, and we go over tabletop exercises that kind of have different type of disasters that could happen. And we use some of these type of things that as potentially happening in streets or train derailments or a pipeline, having an issue there. So fire helps us put on these tabletop exercises and go through training. Police is involved. They now are the lead on our EOC. And we also have different section chiefs that are now meeting with the different sections and scheduling meetings that are going to be happening more on a regular basis to kind of go over these and get people comfortable. As all city staff are disaster workers, but in the EOC, we designate certain staff that we are going to have two teams to try to run a 24-hour operation if we ever got into a major disaster.
You mentioned that there's at least a yearly working group for this plan to update it. Do any of those changes have to come before council or planning commission, or are we approving like, oh, you can make plans to this or changes to this plan for the next 5 years?
The approval will only come to the commission and council every 5 years, but staff will be working on documenting all the stuff. So all incidents that happen that are disasters that are in the surrounding area of county get documented so we can include it in the plan and update it and have updated information.
Okay, sorry, one more question about
Yeah.
that. So like, let's say there's this new type of disaster that comes up that nobody saw coming in like 2 years. Would we just be able to like slot that into the existing plan, or would we have to do a full update to the local hazard mitigation plan?
The full update wouldn't happen for 5 years. They don't change what you have. I mean, you would deal with it, and if there was an emergency declared, then it would fall under this. I mean, if it's not included in here as something new, I guess it's and everybody's dealing with it, they're going to allow it most likely. I don't see it that it wouldn't be allowed if it's an unforeseen one.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, opening public comment at 7:24. If anyone wishes to come forward and speak on this item. Seeing no members of the public, closing the public hearing and bringing it back to deliberation.
Mr. Chair, may I? I just want to appreciate staff. This is a heavy lift that is ongoing. Lori has been working on our emergency services plans for many years, and I can see from this presentation she's now doing it as an annuitant. So still hanging in there, and we really appreciate her for that continuity of service. And these plans are extremely important because they qualify us for those state and federal funds that would be potentially withheld from us if we did not do all of the necessary work to prove that we are doing all of the forward thinking. And I would imagine that, yeah, any emergencies that come up that are not in the plan hopefully our federal government would still address them if Godzilla came and we did not have a Godzilla plan. They would, for the sheer fact that we have done all of the planning that they have previously required us to do and reviewed and gone back and forth, that they would they would still deem us as being able to receive those services. So I just wanted to appreciate staff for that. But it is interesting to read through this and understand where the methane line is and where the jet line is. And those were things that were new to me when I became a council member, and understanding like, oh, this is perhaps a reason why Hollis is constantly being repaired and needs to be kept in very good shape. Which is what I'm always explaining to my mother. But again, just appreciation for staff, and I will be supporting, recommending this item to the City Council for adoption.
Second.
Was that a motion?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. On the motion, like, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just interested too. I mean, the two things that seem, I mean, I personally thought that it would be a good place to have my family in Emeryville because it seems like a place that actually has a lot of low risk in a lot of these kinds of ways. I think about these things. I looked at, sea level rise and housing and wanted to make sure that we would be investing in a place that was preparing. Also, I was really interested to read about wildfire risk, given what we saw in Los Angeles, and how incredibly beyond devastating that was for people, communities, families, and an entire city, really. And it has a huge impact on the state. It has a huge impact on the state budget. It has a huge impact on what's going to happen in a lot of other things that will not have resources because the state is needing to take care of some of that. So it was interesting to read about urban fires as opposed to wild fires, and it was helpful to have that perspective. It was also really interesting to read about liquefaction and some of the areas that we have, given the additional development that is coming here and has been coming here. And as San Francisco experience, sometimes when you do things in one place, it affects the soil in another place, which affects development. And I know that a lot of the individual developers are obviously very concerned about what they're investing in, and they really care to make sure that their foundations and their infrastructure are in good stead for the future. But one of the big risks is, of course, all the city infrastructure due to liquefaction. And so understanding that we are prepared for what happens when our city services are down. If there's a very major earthquake, we're more likely to run out, not have water for a while, or have sewer, or have access to our own infrastructure. So it's encouraging to feel prepared for that, to understand those risks, and how much we as individuals and in our households need to be prepared in those circumstances. And that when we do infrastructure projects, we are thinking about those kinds of risks as well. So I just found it super informative, really grateful the city is prepared and as well. Obviously, anything you can do so that we can get the money when we need the money is a good thing. And Emeryville's done a really amazing job of that in general with a lot of transportation and infrastructure projects. So I also am very supportive.
Any other comments before we go? Go.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Commissioner Small and Commissioner Martinez's statements, and thank staff for the work, all the work that was done on this. I know it's a heavy lift, and it's a very onerous exercise to do, to update the plan every 5 years, but it's necessary for the city to be prepared, and it's very encouraging that the city is prepared for the variety of disasters that could happen. And just echoing that it's also a personal responsibility. So folks, make sure you have your go bags ready, and that you are individually prepared as a family and a household for emergencies as they can come unexpectedly. So.
Well, I'd like to echo all of those thanks to our staff for all of this work. I think right after getting this document is when we started seeing marketing for Final Destination, and I was like, you should just read one of these. You don't need to go see that movie. One thing I want to point out real quickly, because it's a special interest of mine, and just based on timing, I'm about to get a lot more annoying out of it, is that heat kills a lot of people. And we need more comprehensive plans in this city, especially as things get hotter, to mitigate heat and to give the people who live here more options to deal with heat waves. Because a lot of people, especially our seniors, and that's I think one of the planning focuses we might have in the next few years is better preparing our streets for hotter days. The nice thing about it is it just makes it nicer outside too, and keeps people alive. Yeah, thank you so much for your work. If no one has any further comments, I think we can go forward with the vote.
Okay, with that, on the motion by Commissioner Martinez and seconded by Vice Chair Henme to recommend to the City Council to approve the local hazard mitigation plan, I will call the roll. Commissioner Chafe?
Aye.
Commissioner Gould?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera?
Aye.
Commissioner Small?
Aye.
Vice Chair Henme?
Aye.
And Chair Wax?
Aye.
The motion
All right.
passes. Thank you.
Closing that item and moving on to Planning Commissioner's comments. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to make?
I'll just make a comment that due to travel, I will not be in person at the next three, let's see, September, October, yes, next three meetings. I will be attending, I'll try to attend virtually.
Anyone else? I would just like to note that the California Planning Conference this year is happening in Monterey. I think probably a lot of people here have a relationship with Monterey. I've been going there since I was a kid. If you happen to be down there either for the conference or, you know, for any other reason, there's a couple of things that you could check out. One is they have this great linear park system that goes all the way across. It goes behind Cannery Row, and if you want to know where I get, you know, some of my excitement about the possibilities for our own linear parks, that's a great example of a great system that has a lot of things going for it. And the other one is sea otters. Just go see the sea otters. They're a keystone species for our entire coast. We'll talk about this more later, I think.
I apologize if Chad already mentioned this in his announcement, but I don't remember hearing it. But I was reading my email from the city of Emeryville, and I saw that there was an opportunity to volunteer to help build Emeryville's new nature exploration area. And I saw that Commissioner Chafe was signed up for a block of time, and I'm trying to figure out when I can sign up as well, but that's on the brand new Emeryville website, emeryville.org. If you click on Newsflash, you'll see a button for the nature exploration area. And by the way, excellent job on the website. If anyone who worked on that is here, I'm sure everyone worked on it, but it's very functional as far as I've used it, but it looks great. And there is a handy volunteer sign-up sheet for dates between September 2nd and 17th, which I think is going to be the opening of that area. So just a great opportunity to get your hands dirty and help out.
Really quick, just because we're a small city surrounded by many larger cities, I think it's always interesting to see what other cities around us are doing. Just to share, Berkeley recently passed a new missing middle housing ordinance, which allows up to 70 dwelling units per acre, up to 35 feet, which works out to about 8 homes per 5,000 square foot lot. I just think it's very interesting to see. It's something Emeryville sort of champions, kind of spreading out to other cities, because Emeryville doesn't really have single-family zoning, but Berkeley did, and they were one of the first ones actually to use it as a way to exclude minority communities from living in the wealthier areas.
They were the first, in fact. Very nice to see them move past that. Do we have any other comments? All right then, everybody, great job moving to adjournment.
Recording stopped.